Chapter 1. The Hollow December. Ben Green stared at the blinking cursor on his laptop screen as if it were mocking him. The quarterly report was due in 2 hours, but his mind wasn't on numbers or projections. It was on an 8-year-old boy with a crooked smile and a laugh that could melt the frost off any December morning. Adam. Ben rubbed his temples, trying to shake the ache that had settled there like an unwelcome tenant. Outside his apartment window, snowflakes drifted lazily past the glass, settling on the ledge in soft, white piles. The world looked festive, twinkling lights strung across balconies, wreaths on doors, but inside, his one-bedroom apartment was a hollow echo of what Christmas used to mean. He pushed back from the desk and wandered to the kitchen. The fridge hummed like it was trying to fill the silence. Inside, a carton of eggs, half a bottle of ketchup, and a lonely 6-pack of beer. He grabbed a bottle, twisted off the cap, and leaned against the counter. This was his life now. Work and emptiness. A man who used to be a father every day, now reduced to a summer dad. 2 months of sunshine and laughter, then 10 months of silence and video calls that never lasted long enough. He hated it. Hated not being there for bedtime stories, school projects, scraped knees. Hated that his identity, father, husband, family man, had been stripped away like wallpaper in a house someone else was renovating. Ben took a long pull from the bottle and stared at the photo on the fridge door. Adam, grinning wide, missing a front tooth, holding up a trophy from last summer's soccer camp. Ben had been there for that. He cheered so loud the other parents laughed. That was the last time he felt like himself. The thought hit him like a snowball to the chest. I can't keep living like this. He set the beer down so hard it sloshed over the rim. His pulse quickened, a mix of panic and clarity. In the course of a week, maybe less, he realized his life was a shadow of what it used to be. And shadows don't hug their kids goodnight. Ben grabbed his phone and scrolled through old messages from Claire, his ex-wife, the woman who once shared his dreams, his bed, his life. The last text was from Thanksgiving. Adam says hi. He loved the book you sent. Short, polite, distant. He remembered the day she told him about the promotion. The way her voice cracked when she said, I don't want to lose us, Ben, but I can't pass this up. He'd tried to be supportive, tried to believe they could make long-distance work. But months of late-night calls turned into missed calls, then silence, then papers signed in a lawyer's office that smelled like stale coffee and endings. Ben shoved the phone in his pocket and paced the apartment. He couldn't undo the divorce, couldn't rewind time, but he could do something reckless, something that might make him feel like a father again. He stopped pacing and stared at the cardboard boxes stacked in the corner, the ones he'd never unpacked after moving here. His life was already in boxes. Why not move them again? The idea bloomed fast, wild, unstoppable. Move to Claire's city. Be near Adam. No more summers only. No more hollow Decembers. Ben laughed under his breath, a sound that was half joy, half disbelief. You've officially lost it, Green, he muttered. But the laugh turned into a grin, and the grin into action. He yanked open the closet and started pulling clothes off hangers. Shirts, jeans, sweaters, all landing in a heap on the bed. He grabbed the boxes, dumped out old junk, and began packing like a man possessed. No plan, no warning, no telling friends who would try to talk him out of it. As he taped the first box shut, his phone buzzed. A text from his buddy Mike. Game night tomorrow? Ben stared at the screen, thumb hovering. He typed back, can't. Got plans. Ben tossed the phone aside. Plans. The kind that would flip his life upside down. By midnight, the apartment looked like a tornado had passed through. Boxes stacked by the door, suitcase half-zipped, Ben sitting on the floor eating cold pizza because he'd forgotten dinner. He leaned back against the wall, exhaustion settling in, but beneath it, something else, something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and silent, like the world was holding its breath for what came next. Chapter 2. The leap. Ben Green had never been more certain and more terrified at the same time. Certainty came in the form of a U-Haul reservation and a GPS route blinking on his phone. Terror came in the form of a snowstorm that looked like it had been personally scheduled to mock his life choices. He stood on the curb outside his apartment, breath puffing in the icy air, staring at the orange truck like it was a dragon he had to tame. The driver, a guy named Tony with a beard that could house small wildlife, leaned against the truck, scrolling his phone. You sure you want to do this today? Tony asked without looking up. Roads are a mess. People are sliding into ditches like it's a sport. Ben zipped his jacket higher. Yeah, today's the day. Tony finally looked up, one eyebrow arched. Big move. Ben hesitated. How do you explain to a stranger that you're uprooting your life because you miss bedtime stories? Just relocating, he said, which sounded like something a spy would say before disappearing into Eastern Europe. Tony shrugged. Your funeral, man. Ben climbed into the cab, gripping the steering wheel like it was a lifeline. The truck smelled faintly of coffee and despair. He adjusted the mirrors, started the engine, and tried not to think about the fact that he hadn't told anyone. Not Mike, not his parents, not even Claire. Especially not Claire. The city was 3 hours away. 3 hours of second-guessing every decision he'd made since Tuesday. He could still turn back. He could unpack the boxes, crack open a beer, and pretend he was fine. But then he pictured Adam's face when he told him goodbye last summer. The way his son had hugged him so tight his ribs ached. That memory shoved every doubt into the backseat. Ben pulled onto the highway. Snowflakes slapped the windshield like tiny, frozen critics. He muttered under his breath, "This is insane," and then laughed because, yeah, it was, but maybe insane was what he needed. 2 hours later, Ben was crawling through traffic like a snail on ice. The GPS chirped, "In 2 miles, take exit 14 toward downtown." He gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white. "Almost there," he said aloud, because talking to himself was better than screaming. The city skyline rose ahead, glittering with Christmas lights. It looked like a postcard, cheerful, magical, and completely indifferent to the fact that Ben's stomach was doing Olympic-level flips. He found the apartment building after 3 wrong turns and 1 near-death experience with a snowplow. The place was smaller than he remembered from the listing photos, and older, and possibly leaning to the left. Ben parked the truck and trudged inside, boots squeaking on the tile. The lobby smelled like pine and desperation. A fake tree stood in the corner, its lights blinking unevenly, like it was trying to send an SOS. The landlord, a wiry man in a sweater vest, handed Ben the keys with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Welcome. Heat's temperamental. Don't use the oven and the microwave at the same time unless you like fireworks." Ben nodded, too tired to care. He hauled his boxes up 2 flights of stairs, slipping twice and swearing loudly enough to scare a passing cat. By the time he shoved the last box inside, he was sweating under 3 layers of clothing. He stood in the middle of the apartment, panting, surrounded by cardboard towers. The place was tiny, kitchen the size of a closet, living room barely big enough for a couch. But the window overlooked a park, and Ben imagined Adam running across that snow-covered field. That image was enough to make the cramped space feel like a palace. Ben dropped onto the couch, which groaned like it was protesting its new owner. He stared at the ceiling, exhaustion pressing down like a weighted blanket. His phone buzzed, a text from Claire. "Hey, Adam wants to FaceTime tonight if you're free." Ben stared at the message, heart thudding. He typed back, "Absolutely. Just give me a time." Then hesitated, thumb hovering. Should he tell her? Should he explain why his background might look different tonight? He didn't. Not yet. He wasn't ready for the questions, for the judgment, for the possibility that she'd think he was crazy. Instead, he tossed the phone aside and whispered to the empty room, "Welcome home, Green." Outside, the snow kept falling, blanketing the city in white. Ben closed his eyes and let the sound of distant carols drift through the window. For the first time in years, he felt like he was moving toward something instead of away. Chapter 3. Surprise and Suspicion. Ben had rehearsed a dozen ways to tell Claire he'd moved. None of them sounded good. "Hey, surprise. I live down the street now." Felt creepy. "I just wanted to be closer to Adam" sounded noble but also vaguely stalkerish. Every version ended with Claire blinking at him like he'd lost his mind. So, naturally, she found out the worst way possible, by spotting him in line at the local coffee shop. Ben was halfway through ordering a peppermint mocha when he heard a voice behind him say, "Ben." He froze. His brain short-circuited. He turned slowly, like a man facing a firing squad, and there she was, Claire. Same chestnut hair, same calm eyes, same scarf he'd bought her 3 Christmases ago. She looked exactly like the memory he'd been avoiding. "Claire," he said, voice cracking like a teenager's. "Hi." Her eyebrows shot up. "What are you doing here?" Ben glanced at the barista, who was waiting for his payment, then back at Claire. Getting coffee?" Claire folded her arms. "In my neighborhood?" Ben swallowed hard. "Funny story." She tilted her head, lips pressing into a line that said this better be good. "I'm listening." Ben paid for his drink, grabbed the cup like it was a shield, and gestured toward a corner table. "Can we sit?" Claire hesitated, then nodded. They slid into the booth, steam curling from their cups. Ben's heart thudded like a drum solo. "So," Claire said, wrapping her hands around her latte. "You moved." Ben winced. "Yeah." "When?" "Yesterday." Her eyes widened. "Yesterday?" "Ben, why?" He took a deep breath. "Because I couldn't keep doing it. The summer's only thing. The video calls. I miss Adam. I miss being his dad." Claire's expression softened, but her voice stayed cautious. "You could have told me." "I wanted to," Ben said quickly, "but I knew you'd try to talk me out of it." She sighed, staring into her cup. "I wouldn't have tried to stop you. I just would have liked to know." Ben rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't want to make it harder. For you. For him." Claire looked up, eyes glistening. "Ben, I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I had to. The job?" "I know," he said gently. "I never blamed you." Silence stretched between them, filled with the hum of espresso machines and faint Christmas music. Finally, Claire spoke. "So what now?" Ben shrugged, a nervous smile tugging at his lips. "Now, I live here. I get to see Adam more. if that's okay. Claire studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. It's okay. He'll be thrilled. Relief washed over Ben so hard he almost sagged against the booth. Thank you. But, Claire added, holding up a finger, we need boundaries. Clear ones. Of course, Ben said quickly. Boundaries. Love boundaries. Big fan. Claire laughed. A soft, surprised sound that made Ben's chest ache. You haven't changed. Ben grinned. I've changed apartments. That's something. She shook her head, smiling despite herself. I'll talk to Adam tonight. Maybe he can spend some time with you during Christmas break. Ben's heart soared. That would be amazing. Claire stood, pulling on her scarf. Just, don't make this messy, Ben. He nodded, serious now. I won't. As she walked away, Ben sat back, peppermint mocha cooling in his hands, and let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Messy? Maybe. But for the first time in years, he felt like he had a shot at being the dad he wanted to be. Outside, snowflakes swirled past the window, and Ben thought, Christmas might not be so hollow after all. Chapter 4. Deck the halls? Badly. Ben Green had never considered himself a decorator. His idea of festive had always been tossing a wreath on the door and calling it a day. But now, standing in his new apartment with its bare walls and echoing emptiness, he knew he had to do better. Adam deserved better. Ben stared at the single box labeled Christmas stuff, a box that looked suspiciously light for something meant to bring holiday cheer. He sliced the tape open and peered inside. One tangled string of lights, 3 cracked ornaments, and a tree topper shaped like a star that had lost 2 points. It looked less like a star and more like a weapon from a medieval battlefield. Perfect, Ben muttered. Just perfect. He dragged the box to the corner where his new artificial tree stood, or rather, leaned. The thing was 6 feet tall but had the posture of someone who'd given up on life. Ben wrestled with the branches, fluffing them like he was trying to resuscitate a dying bird. Okay, he said aloud, because talking to himself had become a coping mechanism. Lights first. The lights were a nightmare. A glowing, knotted nightmare. Ben spent 20 minutes unraveling them, muttering curses that would make Santa revoke his nice list status. When he finally plugged them in, half the strand blinked cheerfully while the other half stayed dark, like they were staging a protest. Great, Ben said, draping the lights anyway. The tree looked like it had been decorated by someone in the middle of a nervous breakdown. Next came the ornaments, 2 shattered in his hands before he even hung them. The third, a faded snowman, slid off a branch and rolled under the couch like it was escaping the madness. Ben sat back, surveying his work. The tree leaned, the lights flickered, and the star topper drooped like it was ashamed to be there. It was less winter wonderland and more holiday crime scene. He sighed. Adam's gonna think I live in a Christmas horror movie. A knock at the door made him jump. He opened it to find a woman holding a tray of cookies and wearing a sweater covered in dancing reindeer. She had curly auburn hair, bright green eyes, and a smile that could power a small town. Hi, she chirped. I'm Holly. I live down the hall. Thought I'd bring some cookies and say welcome. Ben blinked. Holly? Like, Christmas holly. She laughed. Yeah, I get that a lot. Ben stepped aside. Come in. Sorry about the mess. Holly walked in, took one look at the tree, and burst out laughing. Wow, that's ambitious. Ben groaned. It's tragic, isn't it? Tragic is one word, Holly said, setting the cookies on the counter. Looks like the tree's trying to escape. Ben rubbed the back of his neck. I'm not exactly Martha Stewart. Clearly, Holly teased, then softened. Need a hand. Ben hesitated. You'd do that? Sure, she said, rolling up her sleeves. I can't let a neighbor suffer through a crooked tree and rebellious lights. For the next hour, they worked side by side. Holly untangled the lights with the patience of a saint, fluffed the branches like a pro, and even produced a box of spare ornaments from her apartment. Ben mostly handed her hooks and tried not to look like a man falling for someone who knew the difference between tinsel and garland. When they finished, the tree looked good, really good, straight, sparkling, and topped with a star that actually resembled a star. Ben whistled. Wow, that's a Christmas miracle. Holly grinned. All it took was a little effort and someone who knows what they're doing. Ben chuckled. Thanks, seriously. No problem, Holly said, grabbing her coat. If you need more help, or, someone to taste test those cookies, just knock. Ben watched her leave, heart doing a weird little flip. He looked at the tree again, glowing softly in the corner, and thought, maybe this Christmas won't be so bad after all. Chapter 5. Enter Holly. Ben Green had never been a fan of Christmas markets. Too crowded, too cheerful, too much tinsel in places tinsel didn't belong. But today, he was on a mission. Find ornaments that didn't look like they'd survived a house fire. Adam was coming in a few days, and Ben wanted the apartment to scream festive dad energy, not holiday crime scene. The market was a sensory overload. Twinkling lights strung across wooden stalls, carolers harmonizing like they were auditioning for Broadway, and the smell of cinnamon and roasted chestnuts curling through the frosty air. Ben shoved his hands into his jacket pockets and muttered, Okay, green, ornaments, in, out, no distractions. Naturally, the universe laughed and threw Holly in his path. She was standing at a stall piled high with garlands, wearing a red knit hat and a smile that could melt the snow off rooftops. Ben froze mid-step like someone had hit pause on his life. Holly spotted him and waved, her mittened hand bobbing like a cheerful semaphore. "Well, if it isn't Mr. Crooked Tree," she said when he approached. Ben groaned. "You're never gonna let me live that down, are you?" "Not a chance," Holly said, eyes sparkling. "How's the tree?" "Still standing. Thanks to you, it's practically a work of art," Ben said. "Adam's gonna think I hired a professional." Holly grinned. "Glad I could save Christmas." Ben chuckled, then nodded toward the stall. "So, you come here often?" Holly tilted her head, amused. "Are you seriously using a market as a pickup line?" Ben flushed. "No. Yes. I'm just trying to make conversation." She laughed, the sound warm and easy. "Relax, Ben. I'm kidding. I come here every year. It's kind of my thing." "Your thing?" Ben asked, picking up a glittery ornament shaped like a llama. "What? Rescuing hopeless decorators?" "That too," Holly said, taking the ornament from him and hanging it back. "But mostly I love the vibe. The lights, the music, the smell of gingerbread. It's like stepping into a snow globe." Ben glanced around. "Snow globe with overpriced cocoa." "True," Holly said, grinning. "But worth it." They wandered together, weaving through crowds and stalls. Holly seemed to know everyone. Vendors greeted her by name, carolers waved mid-song. Ben felt like he was tagging along with the mayor of Christmastown. "So," Holly said, pausing at a stall selling hand-painted ornaments, "what's the plan?" "Big family Christmas." Ben hesitated. "Not exactly. Just me and Adam. He's 8 lives with his mom most of the year." Holly's expression softened. "That must be hard." Ben shrugged, trying to keep it light. "Yeah. But he's coming for Christmas break. I want it to feel special." Holly smiled, and for a moment, Ben forgot how cold it was. "That's sweet. He's lucky to have you." Ben cleared his throat, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. "So, any ornament recommendations?" Holly picked up a wooden snowflake and held it out. "Start simple. Classic. You can't go wrong." Ben took it, their fingers brushing. A spark shot up his arm like static electricity, and he almost dropped the snowflake. Holly didn't seem to notice, or maybe she did, because her smile tilted just enough to make his stomach flip. They bought a handful of ornaments, then Holly insisted on grabbing cocoa. They stood under a string of fairy lights, sipping from steaming cups, breath mingling in the cold air. "So," Holly said, eyes twinkling, "you gonna need help hanging these? Or have you mastered the art of not turning a tree into a crime scene?" Ben grinned. "I might need a consultant." Holly laughed. "Well, lucky for you. I'm available for emergencies." Ben raised his cup in a mock toast. "To Christmas consultants." Holly clinked her cup against his. "And to crooked trees finding redemption." Ben chuckled, but inside, something shifted. For the first time in years, he wasn't just thinking about what he'd lost. He was thinking about what he might find. Chapter 6. Father and Son. Ben Green was pacing his apartment like a man waiting for a verdict. The tree stood proudly in the corner, straight, sparkling, and smelling faintly of victory thanks to Holly's intervention. The cocoa mix was lined up on the counter, marshmallows ready for deployment. He'd even bought a pair of matching Christmas mugs because apparently, that's what festive dads do. Now all he needed was Adam. The knock on the door nearly made him trip over the rug. Ben yanked it open, and there he was, Adam, bundled in a puffy blue coat, cheeks pink from the cold, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Dad!" Adam launched himself forward, and Ben caught him in a hug that squeezed the air out of both of them. "Hey, buddy," Ben said, voice thick. "Look at you. You grew a foot." Adam pulled back, eyes wide. "You moved." Ben grinned sheepishly. "Surprise." Adam's jaw dropped. "You live here now? Like, all the time?" "All the time," Ben said. "No more summers only." Adam hooped and spun in a circle, nearly knocking over the coat rack. "This is awesome." Ben laughed, heart swelling. "Come on in. Wait till you see the tree." Adam darted inside, skidding to a stop in front of the glowing masterpiece. "Whoa, this is way better than last year." Ben puffed out his chest. "I had help." "From who?" Adam asked, hanging his coat. "Neighbor," Ben said casually. "She's good at Christmas." Adam smirked. "She?" Ben rolled his eyes. "Don't start." Adam grinned like a kid who just discovered a new superpower. "What's her name?" "Her name is Holly," Ben said, grabbing the cocoa mix. "And before you ask, yes, like the plant." Adam snorted. "That's so Christmas why." Ben chuckled. "Yeah, well, she saved the tree from looking like a crime scene." Adam wandered closer, inspecting the ornaments. "You even got a star." "Nice." Ben handed him a mug of cocoa. "Wanna go ice skating later?" Adam's eyes lit up. "Yes, Mom never takes me. She says she's grace challenged." Ben laughed. "Well, lucky for you, I'm only mildly grace-challenged. 2 hours later, they were at the city rink, lacing up skates while carols played over tinny speakers. The ice gleamed under strings of lights, and kids zipped past like tiny Olympians. Ben wobbled to his feet, praying he wouldn't faceplant in front of his son. Ready? He asked. Adam grinned. Race you. Before Ben could protest, Adam shot off like a rocket. Ben pushed forward, arms flailing, legs doing their best impression of spaghetti. He managed a slow glide, feeling almost confident, until someone called his name. Ben. He turned and promptly lost his balance. His feet flew out, and he landed flat on his back with a grunt that echoed across the rink. Holly skated over, laughing so hard she nearly fell herself. Wow, that was graceful. Ben groaned. You have impeccable timing. Adam zipped back, eyes wide. Dad, are you okay? Ben sat up, wincing. I'm fine, just testing the ice. Holly grinned, offering a hand. Need help? Ben took it and she pulled him up with surprising strength. Their hands lingered a second too long, and Ben felt that spark again, the one that made his stomach flip like a gymnast. What are you doing here? He asked, trying to sound casual. Skating, Holly said, eyes twinkling. And apparently rescuing you. Adam looked between them, smirk growing. So this is Holly. Ben shot him a look. Adam. Holly laughed. Nice to meet you, Adam. You too, Adam said, then whispered loudly to Ben. She's pretty. Ben groaned. Kid. Holly chuckled, cheeks pink from the cold. You two want to skate together? Ben hesitated, then nodded. Sure, but no laughing if I fall again. No promises, Holly said, gliding backward like a pro. Ben watched her, heart thudding, and thought, maybe Christmas miracles come in red hats and cocoa smiles. Chapter 7. Complications. Ben Green had been riding a wave of holiday optimism ever since the skating rink incident. Adam was thrilled, Holly was, well, Holly, and for the first time in years, Ben felt like life wasn't just something happening to him, it was something he was shaping. He even managed to hang the rest of the ornaments without breaking anything, which felt like a personal triumph. But optimism has a way of tripping over reality. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Ben and Holly were at the Christmas market again, this time with Adam in tow, picking out a wreath because apparently, Ben's door looked sad. Holly had said it with a grin, but Ben suspected she wasn't entirely wrong. Adam was darting between stalls, clutching a bag of roasted chestnuts like treasure. Holly was laughing at something Ben said, something dumb probably, when a voice cut through the festive hum. Ben. He turned and there was Claire, standing by a stall of poinsettias, wearing a sleek gray coat and an expression that could freeze hot cocoa. Claire, Ben said, his stomach dropping like a sled on ice. Hey! Her gaze flicked from Ben to Holly, then back to Ben. What's going on? Ben opened his mouth, but Holly beat him to it, stepping forward with a warm smile. Hi, I'm Holly. I live in Ben's building. Claire's smile was polite, but her eyes were sharp. I see. Ben felt sweat prick his neck despite the cold. We were just getting a wreath. Claire nodded slowly, then looked at Adam, who was oblivious, happily munching chestnuts. Adam, sweetheart, having fun? Yeah, Adam said, grinning. Dad's apartment is awesome. And Holly helped with the tree. Ben winced. Holly looked amused. Claire looked complicated. That's great, Claire said, voice even. Ben, can I talk to you for a minute? Ben shot Holly an apologetic glance. Sure. They stepped aside, weaving through the crowd until they found a quiet corner near a stall selling gingerbread houses. Claire crossed her arms, her breath puffing in frosty clouds. So, she said, you moved here. You didn't tell me. And now you're what? Dating someone? Ben blinked. No, I mean Holly's just a neighbor. She helped with decorations. That's it. Claire studied him, eyes narrowing slightly. Ben, I'm not judging. I just didn't expect this. Ben rubbed the back of his neck. Neither did I. Honestly, I'm still figuring things out. Claire's expression softened, but her voice stayed cautious. I want Adam to have a good Christmas. I don't want him confused. Ben nodded quickly. He won't be. I promise. Claire sighed, looking out at the twinkling lights. I'm glad you're here. Really. It's good for him. Just be careful. I will, Ben said quietly. They walked back to the stall, where Holly was chatting with Adam like they'd known each other for years. Ben felt a strange mix of gratitude and guilt twisting in his chest. Holly looked up, smiling, and for a second, everything felt simple again. But Claire's words lingered like a shadow. Be careful. That night, after Adam was asleep, Ben sat on the couch staring at the glowing tree. Holly's laugh echoed in his mind, warm and bright. He liked her, more than he wanted to admit. But was he ready for this? For something new? For the possibility of messing up the fragile balance he'd just rebuilt? He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that Christmas was getting complicated. Chapter 8. The Christmas Party Disaster. Ben Green had one goal: throw a simple holiday party for his building. Nothing fancy, just cookies, cocoa, and carols. A chance for Adam to meet neighbors, and maybe for Ben to prove he wasn't the guy who once decorated a tree like a crime scene. Simple, right? Wrong. So very wrong. The trouble started with the cookies. Ben had never baked anything more complicated than frozen pizza, but how hard could cookies be? Flour, sugar, butter, mix, bake, done. Except the recipe Holly texted him said softened butter. And Ben, in his infinite wisdom, thought melted was close enough. The result? A tray of cookies that looked like sad, flat pancakes. He stared at them in horror as the smoke alarm shrieked like an angry banshee. "Dad!" Adam yelled from the living room. "Is the apartment on fire?" "Not yet," Ben shouted, waving a dish towel at the alarm. "But thanks for the vote of confidence." He opened the window, letting in a blast of icy air, and muttered, "Okay, plan B. Store-bought cookies. Nobody has to know." By 6 o'clock, the party was in full swing, or as full as a building of mostly introverts could manage. A handful of neighbors milled around the common room, sipping cocoa and making small talk. Ben was refilling cups when Holly walked in, wearing a green sweater that made her eyes look like Christmas lights. Ben nearly dropped the marshmallow jar. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual and failing spectacularly. "Hey yourself," Holly said, smiling. "Smells smoky." Ben winced. "Long story. Involves butter and regret." Holly laughed, setting down a plate of perfectly baked cookies. "Good thing I came prepared." "You're a lifesaver," Ben said, and meant it. Adam bounded over, grinning. "Holly, you made cookies. Dad's were interesting." "Thanks, kid," Ben muttered. Things were going well until the lights went out. 1 second, the room was glowing with twinkle lights and holiday cheer. The next, darkness swallowed everything, followed by a collective gasp. "Power outage," someone yelled. Ben froze. "Seriously?" Holly's voice floated through the dark. "Relax. It's probably the circuit. Too many crockpots plugged in." Ben fumbled for his phone flashlight, illuminating his own panicked face like a horror movie villain. "Okay, everyone stay calm. I'll fix it." He marched to the breaker panel like a man on a mission, only to trip over a chair and land flat on his back. The flashlight skittered across the floor, casting wild shadows. "Dad," Adam called, barely suppressing laughter. "You okay?" "I'm fine," Ben groaned, dignity leaking out like air from a balloon. Holly appeared with her own flashlight, kneeling beside him. "You sure? That sounded painful." Ben looked up at her, cheeks burning. "Just my pride." She grinned, helping him to his feet. Their hands lingered, and for a moment, the chaos faded. Just her smile, warm and steady in the glow of her phone. "Breakers this way," she said softly. Together, they flipped the switch, and the lights blazed back to life. The room erupted in cheers. Ben exhaled, relief washing over him, until someone started singing Jingle Bells off-key, and suddenly the whole group joined in. Ben groaned. "Caroling, of course." Holly laughed, nudging him. "Come on, Mr. Host. Lead the way." Ben shook his head, grinning despite himself. "Only if you sing backup." "Deal," Holly said, her eyes twinkling. Later, after the guests trickled out and Adam was curled up on the couch with a sugar coma, Ben and Holly stood by the glowing tree in his apartment. The silence was soft, broken only by distant carols drifting through the hall. "Thanks for saving the party," Ben said quietly. Holly smiled. "You didn't need saving. Just a little help." Ben hesitated, heart thudding. "I'm glad you were here." Her gaze held his, warm and steady. "Me too." For a moment, Ben thought about leaning in, about closing the space between them. But then Adam stirred on the couch, and the moment slipped away like snow melting in the sun. Still, as Holly left with a smile and a promise to stop by tomorrow, Ben felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, and maybe, just maybe, the start of something more. Chapter 9. Old Wounds. Ben Green had been avoiding this conversation for years. He told himself it wasn't necessary, that the divorce papers had said everything that needed saying. But as he sat across from Claire in a quiet corner of the same coffee shop where she'd first confronted him about moving, he knew that was a lie. Claire stirred her tea slowly, her expression calm but guarded. Outside, snowflakes drifted past the window, settling on the sidewalk like tiny reminders of time passing. "Thanks for meeting me," Ben said, wrapping his hands around his cup for warmth he didn't feel. Claire nodded. "I figured we should talk, before Christmas gets complicated." Ben winced. "About Holly?" Claire's lips curved faintly. "Partly, but mostly about us." Ben swallowed hard. "Okay." Silence stretched, filled with the hum of espresso machines and faint carols. Finally, Claire spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Ben, I never wanted things to end the way they did." "I know," Ben said quietly. "I never blamed you." Claire's eyes flicked up, searching his face. "You didn't? Because sometimes, I wondered." Ben shook his head. "I blamed myself, for not fighting harder, for letting the distance win." Claire sighed, fingers tightening around her cup. "I fought too, but the job, it was everything I'd worked for. And I thought asking you to uproot your life would be unfair." Ben stared at the swirling foam in his coffee. I would have gone. Claire's breath hitched. You never said that. I didn't know how, Ben admitted. I was angry, hurt. I thought if I stayed quiet, you'd change your mind. Claire's eyes glistened. I waited for you to say something. Anything. Ben's chest ached, heavy with years of unsaid words. Guess we both waited too long. She nodded slowly, blinking back tears. I don't regret the job, but I regret losing us. Ben swallowed hard. Me too. For a moment, they sat in silence, two people bound by shared history and broken timing. Then Claire reached across the table, her hand brushing his. You're a good dad, Ben, she said softly. Adam adores you, and I'm glad you're here. Ben managed to smile, though his throat felt tight. Thanks. Claire pulled back, her expression shifting. Lighter now, like a weight had lifted. So, Holly, Ben groaned. She's just a friend. Claire's brow arched. Is she? Ben hesitated, then laughed under his breath. I don't know. Maybe. She's different. Claire smiled faintly. Good different. Yeah, Ben said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. Good different. Claire nodded, her gaze warm. Then don't let guilt hold you back. We're okay, Ben. Really. Ben exhaled, relief washing over him like sunlight breaking through clouds. For the first time in years, the ache in his chest eased. Not gone, but lighter. He stood, pulling on his coat, and Claire did the same. At the door, she touched his arm. Merry Christmas, Ben. Merry Christmas, he said, and meant it. Outside, the city sparkled under strings of lights. Ben walked through the snow, heart steady, mind clear. He'd been living in the shadow of what he lost for too long. Maybe it was time to step into something new. And maybe, just maybe, that something was waiting in a green sweater with a smile that felt like home. Chapter 10. Christmas morning, Ben Green woke to the sound of muffled giggles and the faint rustle of wrapping paper. For a split second, he thought he was dreaming. Then he opened his eyes and saw Adam crouched by the tree, inspecting the presents like a detective on a high-stakes case. Morning, buddy, Ben said, voice rough with sleep. Adam spun around, grinning. Dad, can we start? Ben laughed, pushing himself up. Let me get coffee first. Santa doesn't work without caffeine. Adam rolled his eyes but waited, barely, while Ben shuffled to the kitchen. The apartment smelled like pine and cinnamon, thanks to Holly's suggestion to simmer spices on the stove last night. Ben poured coffee, savoring the warmth, then joined Adam by the tree. Okay, Ben said, settling on the floor. Go for it. Adam tore into the first gift with the enthusiasm of a kid who'd been counting down for weeks. Paper flew, laughter filled the room, and Ben soaked it all in, the joy, the chaos, the simple magic of being here. Not on a video call. Not in a summer bubble. Here. Dad. This is awesome. Adam held up a new soccer ball, eyes shining. Thanks. Ben grinned. You're welcome, champ. They worked through the pile. Books, games, a ridiculous pair of fuzzy socks Adam insisted on wearing immediately. Ben snapped a photo, sending it to Claire with a quick Merry Christmas. He's happy. Her reply came fast. Looks like it. Thank you, Ben. Ben set the phone aside, heart light. For once, everything felt right. Then came the knock. Ben frowned, glancing at the door. Who's that? Adam grinned like he knew a secret. Maybe Santa forgot something. Ben opened the door and froze. Holly stood there, cheeks pink from the cold, holding a box wrapped in shiny red paper. Her green sweater matched the ribbon, and her smile was brighter than the lights on the tree. Merry Christmas, she said softly. Ben blinked. Holly, hey, come in. She stepped inside, brushing snow from her hat. I didn't want to intrude, but I had something for you. Adam bounded over. Hi, Holly. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Adam, Holly said, ruffling his hair. Then she turned to Ben, holding out the box. For you. Ben took it, heart thudding. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Holly said, her voice warm. Ben tore the paper carefully, revealing a framed photo. A candid shot Holly had taken at the rink. Ben and Adam, laughing, cheeks flushed, joy written all over their faces. Beneath it, in neat script, First Christmas in the City. New beginnings. Ben stared at it, throat tight. Holly, this is wow. She smiled. I thought you might like it. I love it, Ben said, and meant it. He set the frame on the mantel, then turned back to her, words tumbling out before he could stop them. Listen, I'm not great at this, saying things, but I need you to know. I'm glad you're here. Not just today. All of it. You've made this Christmas better than I thought it could be. Holly's eyes softened, her smile tilting. Ben, I like you, he said, voice low but steady. More than I expected. More than I've let myself feel in a long time. For a heartbeat, silence hung between them, broken only by the faint crackle of the heater and Adam humming jingle bells in the background. Then Holly stepped closer, her hand brushing his. I like you too, she said, her voice like warm cocoa, sweet, simple, and exactly what he needed. Ben laughed, A little shaky, a lot relieved. Good. Because I was about to make a fool of myself if you didn't. Holly grinned. You already did. But in a charming way. Ben chuckled, and before he could overthink it, he leaned in. The kiss was soft, tentative, full of promise. A spark in the quiet glow of Christmas morning. Adam looked up, eyes wide. Whoa, Dad's kissing Holly. Ben pulled back, cheeks flaming. Holly laughed, ruffling Adam's hair. Guess the cat's out of the bag. Adam grinned. Best Christmas ever. Ben met Holly's gaze, heart steady now. Yeah, he said softly. It really is. Outside, snow fell in lazy spirals, blanketing the city in white. Inside, laughter and warmth filled the little apartment. A father, a son, and a woman who turned a hollow December into something bright. And for Ben Green, it felt like the start of everything. Chapter 11. New Year's Eve. Ben Green had never been a fan of New Year's resolutions. They always felt like promises you made to impress yourself and then broke by February. But this year was different. This year, he had something worth promising. The apartment buzzed with quiet excitement. Adam was sprawled on the couch, wearing a paper crown from a party kit Ben had picked up last minute. Holly was in the kitchen, humming softly as she arranged snacks on mismatched plates. Ben leaned against the doorway, watching her move with easy grace, and thought, how did I get this lucky? Dad, Adam called. Can we do the countdown now? Ben chuckled. Buddy, it's only 9. Midnight's the magic hour. Adam groaned dramatically. That's forever. Holly laughed, glancing over her shoulder. We could do a practice countdown. Adam perked up. Yes, practice countdown. Ben shook his head, grinning. Fine. 10-9. They counted down together, voices loud and silly, ending with Adam tossing confetti like he'd won a championship. Holly snapped a photo, capturing the moment. Ben laughing, Adam mid-throw, joy spilling across the frame. Later, when Adam was tucked in bed, Ben and Holly stood by the window, city lights glittering below. Fireworks popped in the distance, painting the sky in bursts of color. Midnight soon, Holly said softly. Ben nodded, heart thudding. Got any resolutions? She smiled. Maybe one. Yeah, Ben asked. What is it? Her gaze met his, warm and steady. To take chances. Ben swallowed hard, then smiled. Good resolution. When the clock struck 12, cheers echoed from the street below. Ben leaned in, and this time there was no hesitation. The kiss was deeper, surer. A promise wrapped in fireworks and hope. Chapter 12. The talk. Adam was 8, but he wasn't oblivious. The next morning, he sat at the kitchen table, munching cereal, while Ben poured coffee and tried to act casual. So, Adam said, voice sly, you and Holly. Ben froze mid-pour. What about Holly? Adam grinned. You like her? Ben sighed, setting down the pot. Yeah, I do. Adam's eyes lit up. Cool. She's nice. And she makes good cookies. Ben laughed. That's your criteria for approval? Pretty much, Adam said, shrugging. Are you gonna marry her? Ben choked on his coffee. Whoa, slow down, champ. Adam smirked. Just asking. Ben ruffled his hair. Let's start with dating, okay? Adam nodded, satisfied. As long as she still brings cookies. Ben chuckled, heart light. For all his worries about confusion and boundaries, Adam seemed perfectly fine. Maybe kids understood more than adults gave them credit for. Later that day, Ben met Holly at the park. Snow blanketed the ground, kids sledding down hills like tiny daredevils. They walked side by side, boots crunching, breath mingling in frosty clouds. I talked to Adam, Ben said. Holly raised a brow. Oh, he approves, Ben said, grinning. On the condition you keep making cookies. Holly laughed. I can live with that. Ben sobered slightly. I want to do this right, Holly. For him. For us. Her smile softened. You already are. Ben reached for her hand, fingers intertwining, and thought, maybe this isn't just a holiday thing. Maybe it's the start of something real. Chapter 13. Bright horizons. January rolled in with crisp mornings and the promise of new routines. Ben found himself settling into a rhythm he hadn't known he missed. School drop-offs when Adam stayed over. Shared dinners. Laughter echoing through the apartment like music. One evening, Ben sat at the table, paperwork spread out, job transfer forms, plans for a more permanent move. Holly was curled on the couch, reading, her presence a quiet anchor in the storm of change. You're really staying, she said softly, looking up. Ben met her gaze, steady now. Yeah, I'm done living in the shadows. Holly smiled, setting her book aside. Good, because I was hoping you would. Ben crossed the room, pulling her into his arms. You're part of the reason I can. She rested her head against his chest, and for a moment, everything felt simple. Snow falling outside, warmth inside, a future unfolding like a gift he never thought he'd get. Adam burst in from his room, holding a drawing, a stick figure family under a big yellow sun. Look, he said proudly. It's us. Me, Dad, and Holly. Ben stared at the picture, throat tight. Holly smiled, eyes shining. And in that instant, Ben knew this wasn't just a chapter. It was the beginning of a whole new story.